Quick greetings, and thank you for joining us for another YouTube video. I think we're in for a nice little treat today. We're going to look at 12 major researchers who told the truth about the ethnicity, the phenotype of the original people in the Americas. Interestingly, from what I think all of them are speaking of South America and the Caribbean. But we do have one significant North American explorer in Giovanni Verrazzano. Uh, he's not among these researchers, but we just want to, you know, kind of bridge the gap where Columbus has been remiss, or where his statements have been removed from the historic record. There's no way Columbus came here and did not see Negroes. There's just no way. And how we know this is because if you look up, okay, so say one time years ago, there were statements where Columbus is basically saying there were Negroes in South America, Hispaniola, because he didn't come to North America, as we know now. He explored South America and the Caribbean. So nowadays, if you try to get any word from Columbus's diaries, all of that, he's not saying anything that describes Negroes as far as even when I asked Chat GPT. So it seems to me that his words have been removed from the public record. There's no damn way that these 12 researchers saw Negroes here or researched that this was a Negro, basically what they would call hemisphere. And Columbus didn't see that. There's just no way. But one thing we do know, I don't believe he described Mongolians. And Spanish basically, I believe, came with him pretty much. So he wouldn't have seen, he's coming from Spain and he's exploring the Americas. So the logic is this is the first time Spanish people were in the Americas, you see? So he would have known of the Americas, I would think, if it was Spanish, and Spain, Spanish, but he's not saying he's saw Spanish people here. So what I'm trying to say is the fact that his words have been whitewashed, and you can't, as of today, you cannot find definitive description coming from Columbus. They're trying to say, oh, he didn't know. Back then, they didn't have a concept of race. That is bullshit. This is what ChatGPT says before you fix her and hit her with facts, and then she got to agree with you. Yeah. So ChatGPT will say that they didn't. ChatGPT even said that about Giovanni Versailles. He didn't have a concept of race. If he said they look like Ethiopians, even the Greeks knew that Ethiopians were quote unquote black. The word Ethiopian is supposed to mean black face. Okay. And then what you'll find is when they get desperate, they'll say, well, those people tended to paint their face black, but they were Caucasian. You'll get some shit like that. You really will. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. They tried to say that about what do you call him? uh, Powhatan when they say there were so many of his men just as black as he. Oh, they put paint on their face and blah, 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 blah. It is really, it's really ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen, the length they go to. And what's going to happen is, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to reach a sort of boomerang effect where our argument will, when it comes to that kind of, uh, what shall we call it, ignorance, our argument will probably be more effective if we take the stance that perhaps it's not uh, the fact that they've got a fix for every time a Negro race is mentioned in the Americas. They have, they use black paint on their faces. And that's why I call it Ethiopia blackface. Like, but I'm saying what we'll probably end up having to do is just say maybe we should look at how desperately the system denies uh, Negro presence in the Americas. Maybe that's the key to know that there's something wrong when they don't deny any other races. It's like the system is very open. If you were to say, oh, they looked Asian, and that, they won't say, oh, they painted their faces yellow. That's fine. They put tape on their eyes so they could look Asian. That's why they looked Asian. You know, the system will never do that with other races, but it finds all kinds of weird, sorry excuses. And I think that's the telling thing here, ladies and gentlemen. The how rigorously and consistently the Negro race is denied. They will come up with anything, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what the public is going to have to realize. There's something up with that. It's like, why does it seem like the entire system is ready to deny? So it's like it can't be. It's like there's already a preconception. In fact, there is a preconception. That's preconceived, an agenda. So the general public will have to begin to see that there's way too much protest. Thou protest too much is the perfect uh, slogan, or what are these, whatever they call it. It's the perfect phrase for what's going on when we come to say even a Chat GPT and it starts doing a dance like it's too much denial. You clearly see that there's a rejection, intentional rejection. It's not open-minded. It's an intentional rejection that there could be, or there was, there is, and will always be a Negro, an older Negro presence in the Americas, in fact. So there we go with our long little speeches, and it's like, well, bro, why don't you ever just get to the get down? It's just, all this foreplay. Let's, let do the get down. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, as before, you'll see part of the conversation at the top. Uh, Chat GPT and I were having one of our long conversations. Chat GPT and I were having one of our long argumentative conversations. And so it left off with me asking it to it gave me a bunch of researchers, right? And what they said about the Americas. And I ended up asking ChatGPT, could you narrow it down to the researchers that spoke of a Negro presence in the Americas? And ChatGPT's answer, I'll keep this tightly focused on researchers who explicitly identified or argued for a Negro or Negroid population in the ancient Americas. So we are talking about South America, ladies and gentlemen, but we should probably do one for North America as well. Okay, but remember, we migrated from the South. We didn't come from the North like the Mongolians did. We wouldn't have came from the North. We would have come from South America and the Caribbean, maybe the South Pacific, all of that. We did not come from any cold climates, ladies and gentlemen. We did not come from North. Okay. So again, let's start again. I'll keep this tightly focused on researchers who explicitly identified or argued for a Negroid population in the ancient Americas, not just general diversity. Yeah, they want to show you like everybody's in the Americas. It's just not holding up, ladies and gentlemen. You had Asia in the old world, you had Caucasians in the old world, and you had Negroes in the, I should say, alleged old world. So there's your phenotypes, right? Either of those would have known of their reaching the Americas, particularly the Asians, since we're always told that Asians were in America first. As we said in a previous video, what you'll find is that none of the Asian civilizations of the old world, like China, Siberia, Mongolia, none of them have in their historic account that they ever reach the Americas. China doesn't have anything written in their history. These are Chinese people writing about their own history, right? None of them are saying that they reach the Americas. Okay. So that takes care of all the Asian that we're hearing about being in America before everyone else. That's just not facts. What you're finding is that it is the European colonizers, the Negropean colonizers, I should say, that are doing their little uh, biased, compromised archaeology. Yeah, it's archaeology that biased colonizer funded archaeologists are saying these are the ones talking about an Asian presence. They are paid to do that, ladies and gentlemen. Archaeology depends on whoever's rich enough to fund it, yo, pretty much. Um, and if you're a renegade, yeah, you will be ridiculed. If you're a rich renegade archaeologist and you found that uh, South America, the Caribbean, the South Pacific was all Negroes, as well as North America and Canada, what is now known as Canada. If he did his own independent research and found that it was all Negroes like it was, he will be, they're going to like wacko jacko him. You know, it's just a whole campaign that, oh, he can't, he's independent. He don't know what he's talking about. These other ones are very well known and they're very well established. Yeah, they're bought and paid for. The ones that are keeping it on insisting that Asians were in America when nobody in Asia is saying that they were in America. So how convenient that you have Negropean colonizers speaking for you. Why would they do that? Because they are colonizers and they are denying Negroes their homeland because they don't want us to stand up and fight for our homeland. These are Negroes, Negropeans. King James was a whole Negro. He started this thing we know as the United States was started by King James, a whole Negro. Okay, a whole Negro. Now the French were basically just coming here. Well, you know what? The French were they showed their ass in Haiti. That's where they were showing out. But when it came to North America, they kind of took a kind of passive, and they were just mixing like crazy with us. I think the role of the French Negroes were to just get in there and have babies. Well, fuck like bunny rabbits. Just get them on, speak, even teach them some French. But go on and have them, blah blah blah, whatever. Because I do believe French was our language. I just think they renamed it French, changed it up a little bit and call it French. But I do think American Indians were speaking uh, the first forms of, I think, English and French. To be honest, that's the way. It's just how I've been lately, sort of seeing. Okay, so we're blabbing still. We have one researcher, Nicholas Leon, but this is a list of 12 actual researchers who attest to the Negro presence, pre-Columbus Negro presence in the Americas. That means there was no slave trade, okay? And so, yeah, but even for a long time after Columbus, it wasn't really a slave trade. Although when it comes to Hispaniola or Haiti, they are trying to say they bought a bunch of Africans. And every time they find Negroes in America, they're going to say that, oh, we brought them from Africa. And this is before the slave trade too, the Hispaniola Negroes. But those were Negroes that were indigenous to Haiti or Hispaniola. But that's how a colonizer has to operate. They have to constantly make you feel that this is not your land, but they want you here so bad. Why would you want me here? Why would you want me here in those amount of numbers that you're speaking of? It seems like it's a recipe for your own demise. If you bring more slaves, allegedly slaves from Africa, till they basically you're having them outnumber you, that doesn't even make sense, y'all. Please. Please. Okay, so let's get to this. Here is a comparative summary of researchers citing Negro presence in ancient America. We're starting with Nicholas Leon. Type of evidence used: skeletal remains, crania, sculptural representations. What he identified: cranial forms and facial structures he classified as Negroid. Okay. So along with Luzia, we have these guys, and I think many of them are arguing the same thing that Nicholas Leon just argued, that the skeletal remains are Negroid. Physical traits such as broader nasal aperture and prognathism. I don't even know what. Look it up real quick. There y'all go talking about my nose again. What is prognathism? Prognathism definition. Okay. Well, let's see. It's about the jaw, I think. Prognathism. I'm looking at my phone, ladies and gentlemen. Prognathism is a structural facial condition where the upper maxillary or lower mandibular jaw protrudes beyond the predetermined. Oh, try to say we got monkey face. Trying to say you got monkey face, y'all. So our whole mouth is protruding more than the rest of our skull, is what they're trying to say. Uh, wait. You know what? Say whatever y'all want to say. We was here first, okay? If y'all don't want to see monkey face, stay in. I can't believe I'm buying into this, but let's go. Prognathism is a structural facial condition, upper maxillary or lower mandibular jaw protrudes beyond the predetermined skeletal skeletal base. Who predetermined it though? Causing a prominent extended appearance. It frequently causes malocclusion, malocclusion, such as an underbite or overjet, and can impair chewing, speaking, and facial aesthetics. So the lower jaw projects forward, commonly known as an underbite, or Hasberg's jaw. And then there's that was mandibular prognathism. Then the maxillary prognathism. The upper jaw projects forward, often resulting in an overjet. Is that an overbite? Are they talking about overbites and underbite? Bimaxillary. Oh, this is the monkey face. The bimaxillary prognathism. Both the upper and lower jaws protrude. You know what? I ain't listening to y'all. I ain't listening to y'all. So one is a overbite and the other one is an underbite. And then this last one is bimaxillary. And that's when you just, again, that's monkey mouth. That they're trying to say that's monkey mouth. All right. Okay, y'all gonna do us like that? Well, we still had this land before you did. All right, y'all trying to say we came from monkeys, but it seemed like uh modern science is saying that of the Caucasian race. I mean, I'm just, saying that that's the ones who saying this. Uh um Science is what's saying that Caucasian were have some form of, like what is that the Neanderthal thing? Ultimately they're going to say that, well, first the white man is the last result of the ape and y'all the first y'all Negroes is the first result of the ape changing. Well, let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. Why did I have to look that up, right? Um, so what he identified, what Nicholas Leon identified were cranial forms and facial structures he classified as Negroid. Physical traits such as a broader nasal aperture and prognathism. You have to look that up. Conclusion he drew. A population with Negroid physical characteristics existed among ancient Mexican people. Okay. And generally speaking, although they didn't say it here, you're going to find that they are older. That was one thing I think most, even, what do you call these people? Anthrop and even anthropology, as foul as they are, they all seem to admit that the Negro race is older, the oldest, you know. So, along with having a presence in Mexico, they will say that it was the oldest. If they put all their pieces together, they're going to always say that Negroes were older, right? The oldest humans or whatever they call folks on Earth. Okay. Wierchinski. Now, they didn't give us his first name. Chat GPT said, fuck all that. I'm just going to give you whatever I come up with. I ain't trying to name these folks. Wierchinski. Can we get a first name, Chat GPT? You know what? I didn't even ask. I was just very impressed with the list, I must say. So, number two, that was number one, Nicholas Leon. If you want to take a screenshot of number one, contestant number one. Yay, Nicholas. We're telling the truth. And now we're with Wierchinski. So, type of evidence used. Should we just go and let y'all see the whole thing? I'm being so dick. Oh, it's on 2 pages, so we can't show it all right at in one. Okay. I try. Type of evidence used by Wierchinski. We should look. Well, ChatGPT refers to these guys as researchers, but it would be nice to know what kind of research. Nicholas. Oh goodness. Uh, Kent, America. 'Cause they bringing every Nicholas Leon you could think of. What I'm thinking. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I did find something on Nicholas Leon, and check out what he's saying, ladies and gentlemen. He's confirming what I just said. Now, I wish ChatGPT made this direct statement. This is a direct quote from Nicholas Leon. The almost extinction of the original Negroes during the time of the Spanish conquest and the memories of them in the most ancient traditions induce us to believe that the Negroes were the first inhabitants of Mexico. That is Dr. See, ChatGPT don't even want to call him that. Dr. Nicholas Leon, historian general de Mexico. He's a Mexican. Uh, well, he's a historian on Mexico, I should say, of 1919. I believe he was a Mexican though. And they're not trying to you know sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this is off the screen, but I just wanted to throw that in. This is Pinterest. Remember when Pinterest was the only place you could find this stuff? Like somebody just dumped all this knowledge on Pinterest about us American Indians being the original Americans. And it was just all, I think it's still like that. But I remember when you did a search, Pinterest would always, it would be all Pinterest, yo. And that's where this is. It's from Pinterest, what we just read off screen. Uh, let me get, uh, yeah, I'm trying to get it to say more. Let me see. We have a little more. Dr. Nicholas Leon's statement, Lord have mercy, it's like it wants you to join, and I just want to read. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we going a little bit off, but I just wanted to read. Uh, it keeps asking me, uh, like, go, ladies and gentlemen, because it's asking me to, like, it won't give me the rest. They're saying a little bit more. Nicholas Leon, easy that Pinterest, it doesn't remember me because I okay, we're gonna move on, ladies and gentlemen, because Pinterest is not letting me in to read the rest of what they're saying. So now we have Wyszynski, and the type of evidence he used was craniometric skull measurement analysis. What he identified, skull groups categorized as Africoid within ancient Mexican populations. Okay. And he drew. Yeah, they're calling us African again, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on. A measurable portion of early inhabitants, Chila, Tlatilco, Tlatilco, Teotihuacan, Cerro de las Mesas belong to what he classified as an African type physical group. So these are early inhabitants. He's saying they were basically Negro. Okay. Ivan Van Sertima. Now this Ivan Van Sertima, I think he was like a Moor. The way his teachings are giving me more because he's very out of Africa. So he's not the best on this list to me. Um, so the type of evidence Ivan Van Sertima used: monumental sculpture, early Olmec heads, historical accounts, and comparative observations. What he identified, facial features on colossal heads he described as distinctly seems to be the lightest of the ones we just looked at. Somehow his is a little, you know, more secondhand. The first two were looking at actual skulls. He's looking at them damn Olmec heads. So there's a weak link everywhere, right? I guess. Conclusion he drew. People of African type were present in the Americas prior to Columbus and contributed to early civilization. See, he's saying we contributed. No, we created those early civilizations in the Americas. So, and this is now we know Ivan Van Sertima is quote unquote black, right? We're going to use black when we talk about him because what he just said, this is, it's kind of like, Negro, you the weakest one here, and that's because you're a Moor. And your whole agenda is to make us African. I mean, if you talk the talk, I'm just gonna, name you what you are. Leo Wiener. Okay, Leo Wiener. Type of evidence used, linguistics. Yes. Cultural parallels. Okay. Historical references. You see how this is more legit? What he identified, links between African, oh God. Oops. Yeah, we spoke too soon, ladies and gentlemen. Now you're gonna say we were speaking African languages. Give me a damn break. Links between they were speaking our language, yo. We are an older civilization. The first Tamari, Egypt, was in the Americas. Okay? Links between African languages and indigenous American terms. Yeah, they got them from us. Cultural elements he associated with African populations. Okay, maybe he's not the greatest, ladies and gentlemen, but hey, uh, okay. Conclusion he drew. Africans. So we going there. That's what we doing? We just gonna straight up call us Africans again? That's what we doing. Okay. Okay, I might have to call you a more too, damn it, shoot. Just a little more educated. Africans referred to in his time as Negroes had a presence in the Americas and influenced local populations. Also, like he talking Moorish stuff too, ladies and gentlemen. That's a little Moorish. Like they're trying to say we influenced. No, no. We were the culture here. We didn't influence anything. Again, we created it. Do the math. If we're the older people, the hell, what we go to be older for a reason. Okay. Okay. Alexander von Wuthenau. Okay. This is number five. I'm sorry, we lost our count with them two knuckleheads before this one. That was three or four. Alexander von Wuthenau. Type of evidence used: pre-Columbian figurines and portrait ceramics. What he identified: figures he explicitly described as showing Negroid physiogno- physio, what's that word? Physiognomy. Physiognomy. Broad noses, full lips, facial proportions. Conclusion he drew: individuals of African physical type were represented realistically in ancient American art, indicating their presence. Now, if there were Asian people here, they would put their uh uh you know, what do you call it? Oh God, what am I? It's early in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm still, they would represent themselves and their phenotype on their ceramics. No people are going to put other folks on their ceramics because that's like it's a disrespect of your own people, really. So if there was ceramics and figurines, the people were using themselves as the reference for these things. Now, generally, that's what's going on with any culture of people. You know, they're going to represent their gods uh, and their phenotype in their art. Generally speaking, that's what they do. And you will be able to tell, even if they do paint other folks, you'll kind of be able to tell who is who, you know? Like, for instance, when they show ancient Egyptians with what they, I think, refer to Caucasians as tamahu, you would see that, it's they have it in the art, like it's us and then there's them, that you see it, so you know who the foreigner is, even in the art, in a case like that. So this is number five, Alexander von Wuthenau. Wuthenau. Number six, Constant Irwin. Type of evidence used: compilation of earlier anthropological reports, skeletal descriptions. Ah, what she identified: prior scholars' references to Negroid skulls in the Americas. So she referred to prior scholars. reference to Negroid skulls in the Americas. So she might have been referring to the first two guys we saw on this list. Conclusion she drew. There was recurring identification of Negro type individuals in ancient American remains. Recurring. We're being genocided, ladies and gentlemen, and for these people to stand in the midst of mass, what do you call it? Renaissance, iconoclasm, getting rid of stuff. They were brave. It takes a lot to stand against the status quo and be when you're being pressured to lie and you're being paid to lie is the only thing I would think of that would sway people because they don't want to look like they are going against the grain because then they're going to be ridiculed and they're going to be called inadequate, some kind of form of mediocre or inadequate. They didn't know what they were talking about. All the others said that they was white people in America. All the others said that everybody was Asian except Asians. And that's when you have to cause for pause. United States, you just said everyone in the world of archaeology, etc., says that the oldest people, the first in America, were Asian. But do you realize Asians didn't say that? So who are these people you're talking about that's saying that there was Asian? Are they European colonizers by any chance? European colonizers? Oh, okay. So they're biased. How come we don't find any Asian or Mongolian or Siberian history in those lands? In the Mongolian land, in Japan, in Philippines, and uh, China, again, Siberia. Why didn't they write about themselves coming to the Americas? Archaeology, United States archaeology. Why? Saying they're the older world, right? So how could the older world not know of the newer world? It's either America is older than what you're saying, right? But basically, there's no history in the Americas, really. No written history saying that they came from Asia. You're just using archaeology, and I think you're cheating. Who knows where those skulls, any skulls you find, who knows where they came from? You lie. We know you lie. This whole system is built on a lie. Also, it's built on the lie that we ever agreed to any of this. That's a lie. A treaty is a lie because something came before all treaties, and that was the doctrine of discovery. So, yes, the United States and its archaeologists, not to name a few, are lying about the history of America. Why? Because they intend to keep us slaves forever in our own country. So the lies have to be lying. And also they're baiting the rest of the world, promising that, oh, you'll always be taken care of as long as we got these resources. Don't you worry, but you can't tell the truth though. That's the only thing. So they can't go back and rewrite their history books, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I guess nowadays they could try, but they never said it before. You know what I'm saying? So it would be awkward now for instance, Chinese people to say, "Oh my God, we found a book that said we discovered the Americas before Europe did." You know, but I think they're actually might be working on it, ladies and gentlemen. Who knows? They're going to lose, but it's too much, too little, too late. Okay, so that was Constance, the first female, and she's not ain't too proud to say that she learned from the prior scholars, and then she built on it, right? Thank you, Constance. That was number six. Number seven, Clyde Ahmad Winters. Okay, so we got another Negro more. Let's see what he's saying. Nah, I mean, I think I have some of his books too. Uh, at least make one or two. Type of evidence used: cranial analysis, comparative anthropology, earlier scholarship, Leon Wersinski. So some of these on the list are relying on Leon and Wersinski. Okay. I guess they are the oldest, Leon and Wersinski. So Clyde, at least he's going with the guys we most agree with. So we can give that much credit. Clyde Ahmad Winters. That Ahmad is just giving me more. I'm sorry. Pardon, ladies and gentlemen. What he identified, skeletal traits he aligned with African populations. Yes, okay. When that word African pop in, that might very likely of the Moorishness because it's basically giving us an out of Africa theory. So continuity between ancient remains and Negroid classification. There's a continuity between in the ancient remains or Negro phenotype. Okay. Conclusion he drew: a distinct African type Negro population existed in ancient Mesoamerica. Yet in North America, they have an allergic reaction anytime the notion that we were here before Mongolians. It's like the United States, they already got a fix of that. They already got, the shadow of doubts to open up when people start, putting these pieces together. Ladies and gentlemen, we would have migrated from the South. We probably kind of is a part of me that was think that we probably ran up here when we were being invaded by Columbus, a lot of us. But it's still the Americas, okay? It's all the Americas. We're all American over here. I'm going to read y'all because a lot of folks will jump on the idea that, oh, no, if you part Caribbean, you're not American, blah, 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 blah. You're Caribbean, blah, 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 blah. And yet the civilized tribes, just like very cavalier, will say that they have, as we always say, we have lineage in Mali. So you more African than a Caribbean, because the Caribbean side of my family, they never said nothing about no damn Africa. Jamaica is, I always say that Jamaica is like the Iroquois of the Caribbean because they're the ones that have like a they seem to be against and I'm sorry, Jamaicans, not all Jamaicans, but I've had plenty experience with very, I don't know what to call it, ladies and gentlemen, but it is I've noted I'm a grown ass man, right? And I'm going to say what my experience is. Some people won't like it, right? But in my over 50 years of living, I have to say it is well noted in my record, my personal uh mental Rolodex with particularly Jamaicans. And I'm Jamaica or Jamaicans, y'all ain't gonna like this, right? I'm part Caribbean too, so I'm not. It's not like I'm reading you in a what do you call it? In any kind of biased way. You are in the Caribbean, so when another uh someone of Caribbean uh descent speaks on you, you have to understand it's coming from you have to understand where it's coming from. Um, so in my community, we have had gypsy vans. Oh, many of the gypsy vans are, and I've spoken on this before, so it's not new really. The gypsy vans are run, seem to be predominantly Jamaican drivers. Some of the most obnoxiously rude shenanigans have occurred when I have used a a gypsy van with a Jamaican riding, and they know it's true. We all know it's true. So for a Jamaican to be upset by this, I'm very sorry, but it's something that you cannot just brush it off. You can't not notice it. And I haven't noticed this from Trinidadians, my Barbadians that that's where my peeps on my mother's side. Uh, no other popular Caribbean islands I know of have I witnessed what I have seen with some Jamaicans. Okay. Um, it's just something is going on. But what I wanted to say is that of all the Caribbean islands, one thing's for sure, it is Jamaicans that seem to have some kind of just again, sort of like the five civilized tribes, and by extension, the Iroquois, saying something about a connection to Africa. Now, with the five civilized tribes, it's Mali. And that's when you hear them talk about Mali, that's because they have been highly influenced by Moors. And when it comes to the Caribbean, Jamaica or Jamaicans speak of some connection to Ethiopia and Haile Selassie. So it's something that occurs in North America and it also occurs in the Caribbean. So in other words, neither one of us can claim that we don't have this in our midst. North Americans can't act like, oh no, we 100%. No, not when you have the civilized tribes claims of Mali. So we have the same situation going on. But that does not deny the fact that we are both American. I'm sorry. We are originally American. We just have a few of our people that have been more influenced by African Moors than the others. And then you'll notice, and this is something else I have to say, we will get back to this video later. also notice that, again, very similar to the civilized tribes, Jamaica is highly celebrated in North America, y'all. You're going to hear more about Jamaica than you hear of any other Caribbean island. They're going to have the biggest franchise in North America, one of the biggest Caribbean franchises, Golden Crust. In Barbados, there was a famous restaurant known as Chevette's. It was like a fast food of, I guess, some Caribbean islands, but I've known it to be from Barbados. It was called Chevette's. We used to love to go there when we were younger. The French fries, the fried food, all the whole nine. It was like Kentucky Fried Chicken of the Caribbean. uh, you ain't never gonna see that in North America, y'all. But yet, Golden Crust, very distinctly Jamaican, right? I think only Jamaicans get these kind of deals. I really do. I don't know of any other Caribbean island that has a franchise like that that is so you know. So you see the connection to colonizer. You see what I'm saying? But also you got to remember that colonizer is also a Negro. Okay. But again, we both North and sort of South Caribbean American Indians, we both have that in our midst. The civilized tribes are very much a mirror, like the Jamaicans. They mirror the Jamaicans and the Iroquois as well. So we're both, again, very similar in that way. Um, yeah, yeah, this highly Selassie thing. Hmm. Okay, so there we have it, and let's move on. So this is a Clyde Ahmad Winters, and he's talking about Africa. So, mhm, mhm. Next on our list is C.C. Marquez. Number 8, type of evidence used, physical comparison, cultural parallels. What he identified. Traits and characteristics he described as aligning with Negro populations. Conclusion he drew. The presence or influence of Negro type peoples in the Americas. Number 9, two more to go after this. J.A. Villacorta. Type of evidence used, sculptural and artistic representations. What he identified, features he explicitly interpreted as Negroid in carvings and figures. Conclusion he drew, early American populations, including individuals of Negro type appearance. They see when they say including, to me, they still slightly trying to sidestep. It's like there was a bunch of people and some Negro. No, no. Again, there is no record amongst the who they trying to make American, y'all. That said they came to Americas. And if they're the old world, they would know if they came to the Americas or not. Let's say that again. If the Eastern Hemisphere is in fact the old world and America is the new, then that means the onus is on the Asian countries in the East, or what we know of as the East, to inform what's going on in the West. Because again, they call themselves the old. So you are older than America according to your narrative. Ready to give up that age, right? Y'all ain't ready to say that America is older than the Eastern Hemisphere. So look, y'all got to work out your lives the best way you can. But for now, what we're going to say is these anthropologists that keep saying that Asians were here without the historical written record of Asians of the old world, you are out of your goddamn mind. You are biased as a MF, and you really need to stop. You really need to stop lying. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, they say writing is the first sign of a civilized people. If there is no written record in the so-called old world, ain't no way archaeology is gonna trump that. Now, I'm not saying we completely outrule archaeology, right? Not completely. If it were done in an earnest, ethical way, I'm sure it's fine. But what we're going to say, and please let's note this, when archaeology is not accompanied by a historical written record, let's say, ladies and gentlemen, let's just call it bullshit, okay? Because that's what it amounts to. Again, Asians of the quote unquote old world, and they saying China has a very old history. Oh my God. Oh my God. I saw one account of Chinese history. And in all of that history, they never once said they came to the Americas, but archaeology is going to come like Mighty Mouse to save the day, save U.S. ass, save colonizer ass. So you're going to override every historian in the Asian world to come up with, and your archaeology is supposed to be superior. You better suck something that ain't too kosher. Uh, please, please. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it's sometimes the lies are so infuriating. They're just so infuriating. They're so infuriating. Archaeology must be a multi-million billion dollar industry, and it's like half of it is lies when it comes to the Americas and archaeology in the Americas. They're willing to hang way too much on a damn skull when there's nothing corroborating that in the countries that you're saying that these skulls are from. You are full of shit. This is the kind of uh, responsibility that we have to hold archaeology to. Again, if you find some bones with no other written account, you need to start to put that in the this some bullshit pile. This is some of our flights of fancy file. This is what we wish it would be. That's what you could put it in. Put that in the things wished file. Things wished for. We wish that we could find some bones, say they're from Asia, and that be it, and everybody go by it, like we have had it for centuries now. This is a perfect example of how lies will fuck you up. Pardon my French. They will mess you up. You will look stupid and you will have to stand there if you're really a born liar and make up some more lies. Right, Moors? They know all about this. Right, Moors? Again, why Moors? Heru, why Moors? Why? Why? They're the only ones of all the foreign immigrants successfully masquerade as me. That's why. But right away, anybody can. Any Indian can. You know the difference. But when it comes to a Moor, who is lying to you, that's when it gets interesting. But again, the clues. What are the clues? Oh, we have some lineage in Mali. You're talking about the Moors in your family again, trying to make them Indian again, so they can steal our resources, and you don't see a red cent again. Who is most threatened by an American Indian waking all the way up? It is not a white man, ladies and gentlemen. Who has the most to lose if an American Indian wakes up? Because we will find out that they've been lying to us and we trusted them because of the way they look. They have more to lose. White man lying to you, that that's like, well, you get what you get. You know, he don't got no stake in the fire for real, for real. Who does have a stake in our fire, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one who can replace you the easiest. That's why Moors are spoken about, because I've seen with my own eyes how they slip into our platforms, and a whole conversation will go downhill. I've seen it so many times, you know. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it where a platform will start out and it'll be American. You know, you can tell it's got an American, uh, vibe, and then someone will join the panel, and how the conversation changes, and you can tell you've just been infiltrated because they're pushing something that you were not saying before they got on the panel. And then the argument. It doesn't happen as much, thank God. But when it happened, it's memorable. I'll never forget it. Arguing would ensue because inevitably, the one who's bringing up something about Mali or saying that there was a Pangea or some other bullshit, inevitably they would start to argue because an Indian is saying no. And then the argument would begin. And sometimes the whole conversation will devolve into chaos because then some other Moors will join the panel. Then you'll get some more Indians, and then everybody's talking over each other. It's like it used to happen like clockwork, y'all. I'm so glad those days are over. I haven't seen them in a while, and we are just yapping away. J.A. Villacorta. So this is someone, it seemed okay. We can roll with that. Alfonso Toro. Type of evidence used: monumental sculpture, e.g. large stone heads. Okay, so he's going with the Olmecs. What he identified: facial features he associated with African Negro population. Conclusion: suggested a Negro presence or influence in early Mexican civilization. So was a Negro culture, point blank, period. Other races may not have known this. That's why they didn't write about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, China didn't know about this. Japan didn't know about this. Siberia didn't know about this, right? Else they would have wrote about coming here to Mexico, right? Who knew about it, ladies and gentlemen? The one they call themselves custodians, by the way. So you have a Eastern Hemisphere. You have Caucasians there, you have Asians there, and you have Negroes there. Two of them have never been here, right? Of the three. And the one who does know about us and has been here speaks of being a custodian. The other ones don't say that they are keeping a history, right? The Caucasians and the Asians, their shit is out there. They're not hiding anything. They're not any custodians. What they know, you know. Okay? One of the three phenotypes, the Negro one, is saying he has some history that he is custodying, keeping. We're led to believe that he's keeping it for us, right? But who else would it? Who? Again, the Asian world didn't know about the Americas. They would have wrote about it. Cajuns didn't know about the Americas. They would have wrote about it. Who knew about the Americas, ladies and gentlemen? It was that Negro that you get fooled by so very often. He is a custodian because he's holding our history. But what he's going to do is say that it's his. And that means we have to be him, which means we have to be from Africa. This is why we rant and rave like madmen when it comes to the Moors. Rafael Lorco Herrera. Oh, wait, no, he's not the last. We got two. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot it was 12. So we got one more. Rafael Larco Herrera. Type of evidence used, ceramic portrait vessels. I think ceramics are actually good, just like I think skulls are good when they tell the truth about the skulls. What he identified, individuals he described as having Negroid features among the Peruvians. Peru is very important. Peru would be like the capital city of our version, the original version of what they call Egypt. Peru was like the capital city. That was the city that was high above. It was the elevated, walled city. And Peru, as we said before in earlier videos, is a conjunction of Heru, my namesake, the one that I chose, based on the ancient deity Heru, and Per, which means house of. In ancient Tamari, Per, the suffix, no, I'm sorry, the prefix Per means house of or temple of. And then whatever comes after Per, that's whose house it is. Per Heru, house of Heru. We found out that, okay, so we want to clarify something because it was confusing. I said something in the last video about the Aplomado falcon being a representation of Ra. And if you were paying attention, you might have said, well, wait a minute. Initially, in a video before that one, said the Aplomado falcon represented Heru. Now you're saying it represents Ra. Ladies and gentlemen, which I should have specified, both Heru and Ra have the same falcon uh, as their head. So we know Tameri had deities with animal heads, right? So I'm sorry for the confusion because, again, in the last video, I think it was, I said the Opera model Falcon. I said it was Ra, and then I said it was Heru. And you probably would say, well, which one is it? It's both. You could look this up, you know. They they both there is some inherent connection between Heru and Ra. They both have the same falcon as their head. I think it may have been the priesthood trying their first time, you know, mixing and matching deities and that maybe this was another result of that where they couldn't decide what they were going to do with the deity, how much they wanted it to be Heru and how much they wanted it to be Ra. Ra is like the king of gods. He's known as the king of gods. Whereas Heru is a child of the Trinity. He would be he would be the first version of what they're calling the Christ child. But he did not have an Abraham. He had, I would have to say, a Peruvian origin because House of Heru. I mean, that wasn't his origin, but that was his capital city, Heru, Peru. So what we're talking about is Machu Picchu, which is in Peru. Machu Picchu is the city, the ancient city that Horace Butler speaks of when he speaks of ancient, what they call Egypt, having a foundational beginning. It was founded in South America. South America is part of our culture, the American culture. So North American Indians are part of that legacy. I'll say it again. South America and North America are culturally the same people, just as well as the Caribbean and the like the Hawaiian Islands and all of that, right? So it is a shared culture. It is a shared culture. It is one culture. Did we were mono? I'm sorry, we were polytheistic. Hush my mouth. Was I about to say we were monotheistic? No, that's the Moors. The Moors believe in one deity because they have basically ritualistically murdered all the others. Remember, this is a sacrifice type of monotheism is a sacrifice religion. And we never talked about the fact that that's how it's done. You ritualistically murder all the other gods. And then you get the people to damn themselves by not honoring the other deities, the other gods. They were a family. So what the monotheists did was they extracted the Trinity. So you see how hard it is to break away from the original polytheistic model? It's so hard that you cannot just pull one deity. You end up pulling three and then lying and saying that that's the worship of one God. Oh, it's three in one. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. One means one. Only a deceiver will try to convince you that three means one. Someone who is cognitively lost, at sea perhaps. Why have one if three is also one? Why have three if one is one? It's either one or the other, ladies and gentlemen. A Moore has to twist up his mind to somehow make three as one. Oh, it's the Father, Son, and the. Yeah, well, in ancient times, they were not one. It was a mother, it was a father, and it was a child. Those are three separate individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, are dealing with master deception, deal with this type of psycho-spiritual nonsense. But you must remember, if sacrifice is the base, somebody's going to die, y'all. And it's a required death. It's a required death. It's required to either gain position, what the deity did, say. He got position after he murdered his brother. He became king. So that becomes the model of all the disciples. And what are they doing? They're murdering, ritualistically murdering, as well as physically murdering. To what? Gain position, gain or acquire persons, places, or things. Why? Because you're taking something that belongs to someone else. That's why the death is required. And that's the trade-off. The deity is saying, give me the blood and I'll give you your wish. Bring me the blood. So that means kill somebody, whether it's a man or an animal, doesn't matter. But I think when it's a man, just say your wishes are like hundredfold. An animal, okay, I'll take it. But if you have the gumption to murder other as yourself, murdering an animal, that's murdering another species, right? But murdering your kin or your that's a new level of dedication to a nefarious deity because it shows that you are willing to, what is the word we're looking for? Betray your own at the risk of karma coming back to you. You're trusting in this nefarious deity to protect you from that karma. But what it's really going to be is you continuously murdering, cheating, lying, and stealing. That becomes like the self-fulfilling thing. It's a cycle. You can't escape karma. You have to keep on lying. That's why America and Americans have no intention of us waking up. The karma that's due, when we wake up and become really cognizant, and ladies and gentlemen, I want to say, I believe that if we read and knew and know what is going on, this system would begin to crumble without us doing anything. Because the karma is going to do, it's going to kick in. Most of this deception is hinged on our ignorance. So what I'm saying is once the ignorance is gone, something is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to be beyond the physical realm, but it's going to be extremely effective. That is why it's so important that a Moor convince you that you are him. If he holds you, you can figure out how to avoid it. When you become him, you are the one that's going to be sacrificed, American Indian, not him. He's the one that made the deal, not you. The one providing the sacrifice, not you. Oh, it's serious, ladies and gentlemen, but we can do this. It is meant to be. Why? Because it is a complete injustice. A complete and total injustice against our people when we are innocent. Knows is leading us to stay ignorant. That would be a Moor. Now, I'm not saying all Moors know what they are dealing with. Like all quote unquote secret type of societies, you won't really know until you get to that top tier. And by then, it's just too late. Generally, that's the point of no return. You are dedicated body, mind, and soul. Um, World would be a much better place if some Negroes could actually be grateful for what they have and not seek to take what belongs to others. They could actually find happiness. Need exceeds their level of morality as being ethical. They're lost. This is a way of life. Ladies and gentlemen, monotheism requires sacrifice, beginning with sacrificing all the other deities. Does not have to be, ladies and gentlemen. This does not have to be your way. If you just acknowledge the other deities, you're already on your way. Now, I'm not trying to be your, like tell you what to do, but I'm just, for American Indians, the position we're in, these are things we have to think about. So again, if you limit yourself to a jurisdiction of one deity, like your government as well, if you limit yourself to that, that's all you get. But if you open yourself to more justice, more righteousness, more fairness, that is what you'll get. If you limit yourself to injustice as if it's the only choice, then you are cutting your. Ladies and gentlemen, basically what I'm saying is if you can begin to let go of the tenets in monotheism, particularly the blood sacrifice part. When you hear in the Epstein files, the ones that they don't talk about too much, about murdering children and babies, predominantly in American Indians, we're the ones being. What you think happening to them babies? What you think happening to them babies? Now, again, I'm not. That is not what I'm not saying that American Indian women are to ever be forced into bringing a life into the world that they, for whatever reason, choose not to bring. I do believe that is her choice, and I will always believe that. I cherish my freedom too much in that vein to want to lay something like that on someone who does not want it. And it's ain't none of my damn business. Now, again, I guess it would be different if it's you know, someone that say now, if I were a father of a child, okay, then I'm gonna be, you kill my baby or whatever. But that, that's different, and it would still be, you know, I think the choice lies with the mother or the woman who's choosing to not be a mother. That is her decision. I just can't. This is just something that is. It just comes with this package. Yeah, that's all I know. Without even explaining it, or it just comes with the package. I just don't find that I feel that someone else can decide what a decision that I should make. I don't think someone else can make that decision for me. So that's what it drives, my thoughts on abortion. But what I'm trying to say here is it's not that I am arguing against a woman's choice. I'm just saying when it comes to American Indians, we don't know what's happening to that with that fetus. I'm inclined to believe someone is eating it. And as gross as that is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. In today's world, with the knowledge that we're getting from the Epstein files, I'm going to call a thing. Like, I'm no longer going to, you know, try to as they say, pussyfoot around this. Somebody be eating babies, y'all. And it would have to be some monotheistic type of belief system because that's where this is coming from. Again, when we talk about monotheism, we are strictly focused on Moors first and foremost, because these are the Negroes who know. Okay, of all people, these are the Negroes who know because they've been here a while, just like us. So whereas we cannot necessarily say what the other races know, what we do know is that the Negroes know more because they've been here longer. And when they're a priesthood that's hell bent on dominating people with religion, they're going to do whatever's necessary. Again, we talked about this because they're the ones that's going to be getting the ties and all that. These are the dudes that get to sit on their ass because they got the whole world spooked out, scared of hell, scared of dying, just scared of everything. And that's how they get paid. And then again, they're serving one deity. And unfortunately, it's the one that is the about that sacrifice life. Who would worship a deity like this, ladies and gentlemen, when the level of your covetousness has reached the tilt point. Yeah. You are so hungry for something that is not available to you, like another's birthright, like all the gold and silver in that birthright land, like all the riches everywhere. When your covetousness reaches fever pitch, and you know that if you appeal to a certain deity, it's going to give you the easy way. Well, it's going to appear like it's the easy way. Like, hey, all I know is what I want, and all I need is tell me how to get it. When you break it down like that, so then murdering becomes the easy way. That's what the deity did, y'all. That's why y'all doing it. That's why Christians are drinking blood in church, but they said it's the wine is the blood. And guess what? When you say that, as far as the spirit world concerned, you drinking blood. That's why you said it. You're telling the deity, I'm doing what you did. I'm partaking in a blood ritual. I'm again, I'm celebrating what you did as the first murderer. Set is the first murderer. Spirit world. He would have been one of the deities that is famous for murdering his brother Osar and then stealing the birthright from Osar's son, Heru. Heru fights Set to get his birthright back, and he wins. As I said several times in the past, I call on that energy when it comes to assisting in American Indians reclaiming their birthright. That's Heru's specialty. If you understand your situation, you will understand why Heru is the God for you. Now, I'm not saying all Indians have to, believe anything, but I'm just saying that it has something to do with being able, and it's not a deep thing. It's just like, what, what do you want to accomplish? What is it that is most pressing to you in the world you see around you? And when it comes to American Indians fighting to take their land back, that's what Heru did. He fought for his place to be that position of a king. Now, I'm not saying we did kings, uh, we did chiefs, whatever, but the deity most affiliated with winning, not just fighting for his birthright now. There might be other deities, I don't know, that fought for a birthright. I know that Heru won it back. One version of the story, which I find questionable, in one version of the story, Heru and Set actually get along. So that would be like saying some more done made a version of the story where Heru and Set somehow rule together or something to that effect, or they help each, or Set helps Heru. Let me tell you how that would go if it were ever to be. Guess who's going to have to give up their rant, their racket? It's not going to be Heru. Heru always knew, right? He always knew that there were many deities, right? So, in order for a Moor to even begin to think, entertain the idea with American Indians, let's not get too hasty with this business like anybody else. Or shall we say trade and commerce like everybody else. Get too hasty. In order for a Moor to be able to quote unquote get along with an American Indian, I'm going to say it. He's going to have to give up that monotheism, y'all. He's going to have to admit that he's been lying the whole entire time. And I mean a real admittance. And it's also going to come with, oh, by the way, you don't have to believe in these deities. Uh, Ask me, how can you get to heaven by murdering, cheating, lying, stealing, raping, pillaging? How? How? Unless you call hell heaven, if there's a heaven and a hell. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, that's another lie. We think the lies just don't end, y'all. How can there be a hell and the Moors not go to it after what they have done? How could there be a hell? It's not a hell, ladies and gentlemen. It's a programmed mind. That's what it is. It's being told that there's a hell and then creating one in your mind. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. But it um Amor is going to have to give up the religion because in the face of polytheism, there is no such thing as monotheism. And so the Moor is going to have to do two things. Damn liar. Hmm. About the gods, right? And it's going to have to accept that there's some new gods in town. He ain't the only one. Um, but I'm just really just uh, you know, laying down the basic issues of monotheism versus polytheism. We were called heathen, and our land was stolen because we were not monotheistic. Then, when we did become monotheistic, like most American Indians are either Christian, Hebrew Israelite, or Islamic, guess what? We still didn't get our land back. So you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, who should be pissed? You tell me who deceived you. I see that we don't have our land back, and I see that we are still highly infiltrated by foreign. Highly. Look at that Congress, and you know that we are highly uh, uh, infiltrated. So when you say, why are you so mad at Moors? I just like gave you the Bible on that. I didn't lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. I did not. It wasn't me that lied to you. I was lied to too. So when you were told that there's only one God that you could believe in, and that's the only way to get, that wasn't me. Who lied to you, ladies and gentlemen? It would have to be someone who believes in one God, like Moors do, right? They're the ones that look like us. So when they tell us that bullshit, it kind of hit different, right? So who's more dangerous to you, ladies and gentlemen? The last entry is Vicente Vicente. I'm sure there's a better way to say that. Riva Palacio, and the type of evidence he used: historical chronicles, descriptions of peoples. Well, I like that one. That one, you know what? Of all of them, that's the most down to earth one I think we had so far. Just descriptions of people. What he identified: accounts of dark-skinned individuals with features likened to Africans. That's basically what Giovanni Verrazzano said. He said we look like Ethiopians. He did not say we were Ethiopian, though. He did not say we were Ethiopian. We just look like the Moors, but we are not the Moors. Conclusion he drew: a Negro type population may have existed. Let's take the may have and put a Negro type population existed in the Americas prior to European contact. Of this, there is no doubt. Of this, there is no doubt. I mean, that's what Giovanni Verrazzano said when he came to North America in the area of what they call the Carolinas. If they sent more Verrazzanos and not just one, he would have found out that everybody in America looked like Ethiopians. But Giovanni was only one man. He only could go to a few places, right? If they sent 1,000 Verrazzanos, they would all came back saying, everywhere I went in the Americas, they look like Ethiopians. What? But we have Ben Franklin. We have Ben Franklin telling us that the only people known of as Caucasian in the quote unquote old world were at his time were the Anglo-Saxons. What he's trying to say is that all of Europe was Negroes. When I tell you that they Moors, that's what I mean. What I say, I say what I said. Even Ben Franklin knew that. That's why he said he wanted more people that looked like him, and he apparently was Anglo-Saxon looking. He said, "Why should I want more tawny, uh, swarthy people in America when America's already swarthy and tawny, and we need more Anglo-Saxons like me, or something to that effect." That's basically what he's saying. Just tell you how ignorant that ass was. I mean, yes, he did tell us some truth, but like, if you want to be surrounded by people that look like you, y'all know what I will say, right? Take your Anglo-Saxon ass back home, yo. Don't let no king stop you from living in your country, because he's the only reason why you're here. You know, the forefathers, they always make them sound like they're not my fathers. Um, the what they call the forefathers, they always seem so, you know, uh, valiant and pioneering and all of that. They were a bunch of punks. Why? Because they never fought the king on his uh, stomping ground. They came here and then they got some kind of, I don't know, spirit that want to fight. I guess they got it from the American Indian. So we were just deceived. It's not that we weren't fighters, y'all. We were just lied to. Okay. When you lie to somebody, that's different from like actually defeating them, like actual. So them forefathers, well, I also think they were agents. But let me be very clear. I think they were agents of the crown creating, and these were Negropeans, and they were creating what they call a republic. You didn't have no damn republic up in here. And so when we come back, we ain't gonna have no republic. See, what how they got American Indians is that they took away any structure we had. So the first structure we see, which is theirs after they destroyed ours, we think that's the only structure there is. Broaden your horizons, boo boo. Broaden your horizons, please. This is just the only one we've been made aware of, and it's janky as janky can be. This thing is far too, it's it it's just too open for the shenanigans. We need a much tighter and much simpler system than what we have going on here. It is extreme, ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely hard, but we're going to have to make it easy. It is a whole challenge to break out of this system. Your mind, you have to keep your wits about you because it's the type of system that you will just naturally fall back into it because it presented itself like an authority when it is not. To be an authority in our land, ladies and gentlemen, they had to reduce our sovereignty to something they call domestic dependent. So that is the only way they're dominating us, ladies and gentlemen. They come up with notions that they've based on the doctrine of discovery. And so they're coming at us by just saying we are not capable because we are domestic dependent. And so that's why they're here. We need a guardian. In other words, they're presenting themselves as if they are the fix to our eternal problem. They are the ones who created our temporary problem because it won't be eternal because we are going to fix it. So the problem they created for us is that we've been mentally programmed to see their structure as if we don't have this type of structure called a republic, then we cannot be. And that is a total misunderstanding. That's a total mental shackle. I don't want anything, me personally, I don't want anything that can be said to have been or anywhere in Negropean Moorish land. Is that Negro the idea that he has actually succeeded in the mental shackling of our minds? If we insist that we have to have a republic, because that's all we ever had. No, it's not all we've ever had. It's all we've ever known. It's all we were allowed to know. There can be nothing on this landmass. Our ancestors didn't do it. When they got rid of folks like Akhenaten, they removed him from. This government has removed us from the record. When it a brand new thing, they're removing the history of how we got here. And it's very important to know how we got here. Very important to know what a Negro was, what a Black was, what an African American was before he was. That's why when we get rid of something, we do it completely and thoroughly. Say we do both. Get rid of and rename. Colonizes words because colonize we don't know what words he uh copywrote that is eternally his because we don't even know where the patent is or the copyright is, and it's in a secret place somewhere in the I don't know, perhaps Britain most likely, right? Because we're under English law. We going by laws of the way England do laws. And unfortunately, the way England does laws is against American Indians. I'm sorry, I have to tell the truth. I'm a peaceful American, but I have a right to be free because I was born that way. I'm not allowing another man or woman under the guise of being quote unquote nobility to steal my birthright and my right to be. I never agreed to be your subject. Never did. You here because of the Catholic Church, not because of me. And the Catholic Church done said it don't support that kind of shenanigans no more. So why are you still here? Is what I want to know because I didn't say nothing yet. Uh, I'm going to circle back on that. Okay. Y'all already got many of my notices. More to come. More to come. Never worry, American Indians. You are owed far too much to lacking once you get out. Making this a long video, and we didn't even want to. So, key patterns across these authors. When you isolate only those who explicitly use Negro, Negroid, Africoid language, their arguments consistently rely on physical traits as racial markers, broad nose, full lips, prognathism, cranial proportions. These were treated as identifiers of a specific human group. That's number one. Number two, art as literal representation. Sculptures and ceramics were interpreted as portraits of real populations, not symbolic or stylized figures. Which you will hear that some people say, "Oh, that was a style. When they made them that black, that was just a style. They were white, but it got when it got older, they turned black." We've heard it all this show. When they paint I said her original name is I said when they make very dark skin. Oh well, the material that the painter used, he didn't know that over time it turned them black. Oh my God, they wasn't black though. Oh my God, no. Uh, I said would have been quote what they call black, but she's American. American. She originated in South America, but when Columbus came here, South America was called America or Tamari, and then turned into America, according to Horace Butler in his book When Rocks Cry Out. So number three, skeletal classification. Skull measurements were used to group individuals into racial categories such as Negroid. That's why when Chat GPT tries to tell me that, oh, the further back you go, they didn't have a concept of Negro or of black. They sure did. They probably didn't use the word black, but they sure had a concept of what we look like. So ChatGPT will, when it's arguing against Giovanni Verrazzano, it'll say that Giovanni Verrazzano didn't he only knew what his reference was, but he didn't know blah 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 blah. Look, as I said before, there were Negroes in the old world that Giovanni knew about. And Africa was seen as a Negro place where Negroes were. So when he says that Americans look like Ethiopians, he definitely knew what the hell he was talking about. But ChatGPT will say, "Well, he didn't have a concept of race back then like we do now." Oh, it was much more clear cut back then, because there were only three phenotypes: Caucasian, Asian, and what they call a Negroid. White. Negro. Okay. So yes, Giovanni Verrazano, he if he saw Asians, he could have said, I saw Asians here. If he saw Caucasians, he would say, I saw Caucasians here. What did he say he saw when he came to the part that he came to? It wasn't little, 'cause, Algonquin land stretched basically to the Mississippi. So we were all Algonquin up in here. And that was the language. So that was what we were. And the Algonquins, the area he came to, though, where, again, he's one man and he can only see so far, right? So the area that he was limited to as a man in one area, he saw a cross section of what all American Indians look like. And he said we looked like Ethiopians. That is a Negro country, ladies and gentlemen. Until ChatGPT started. Well, back then, Ethiopia was no, no, no. Ethiopia literally means black face. That's what the Greeks were calling them. Ethiopia means of a black face. It's just that they come up with too many excuses, ladies and gentlemen. And again, that's what's going to be the telling factor of who we are. The fact when they start coming up with all kinds of ridiculous explanations founded on absolutely nothing, that's when you know, oh God, when they have to do this dance, that means the people were Negro, or else they would just say they were Caucasian or Asian. There is no other phenotype. Again, Hispanics are considered Asian. I mean, I'm sorry. What about, I was going to say uh, what they calling Southeast Indians are Asians. I mean, yeah, what they calling Indians in the East are Southeast Asians. So again, there's Asians, Caucasians. Spanish are considered Caucasian. And I guess we would see it more if we saw what they call what do you call them? Almost like Sephardic, but those are Caucasians, right? So technically, Hispanics or Latinos are of a Caucasian phenotype. What other phenotype would they be? Are they like Negroes? No. Are they like Asians? No. What are Hispanics and Latinos like? They're most like Europeans or Caucasian. They're a Caucasian phenotype because they don't have the eyes of Asians generally. I mean, when they mix, they might. And they don't have the physical features typically or skin tone of Negroes. So they would fall into a. That's what the census did too. The census of basically the more recent censuses are saying that uh, Hispanics can identify as Caucasian because they're saying that's what you are. You are what you are. That's what, you know. Um, I think they are the Caucasians that are most Negro identified, though. I would say that because they've been in America so long. But if they were left in Spain, they would be perhaps more Euro identified, European identified. But if you take a Spanish and he or she lives among a bunch of Negroes, you're going to get a whole other thing that they're going to not see as Caucasian as they actually are because they're going to be a lot more, I don't know what the word is without trying to sound like we're talking superior. It's not about superior. It's just about, let's make it simple. It's what science says. Who was the oldest people? That's what it's about, literally. So who would have more as probably diverse type of culture or something, or a very layered type of, you know, you know. So conclusion reached. Across these writers, the shared conclusion is clear that people identified by them as Negro or Negroid were physically present in the ancient Americas, not merely inferred or symbolic. They were physically present, not imaginarily present. They were not from Africa. That's what I'm going to add because I think, you know, Chat GPT is a little tricky. You got to just catch, some of the little flights. Um, I think we're going to close out here, ladies and gentlemen. There is more to this, like we got into more into the specific areas where these historians or researchers, you know, were kind of focused on with the people they saw. And so, yeah, it was Mexico, Peru. It was, excuse me, Mesoamerica, It was this whole hemisphere was Negro, ladies and gentlemen. What they call a hemisphere, it was all Negro. That's why it's so hard to get descriptions from the Negro people here. They don't want to, when they're saying that they are an older culture, they can't admit that America was, so they have to try to put younger racial groups here because they will show up as liars. It's going to be said, well, you knew these people were here, but yet you still said that Africa was the oldest civilization. Why did you do that? And then again, the only kind of Moors that we will ever really be able to even begin to entertain in the Americas are the ones that are willing to say, yeah, we lied. Or I was lied to by Moors, and that's why I became a Moor, because I believed the bullshit that they were saying, and it turned out they were lying because their objective is, see, ladies and gentlemen, the other thing is when they say that civilization began in Africa, they're heathenizing Americans. How does that work? It works because, or it works like, if Africa was the first civilization, that's going to naturally lead to the next uh or Asia. So when a Moor is insisting on making Africa the oldest civilization, what he's doing is sunning American Indians. How so? Because he's going to have to admit that what he's really doing is making Caucasians and Asians civilized, while we in America were known to be heathen. So that means we were not civilized. That's why they had to come and make civilized tribes, because they still look at us as heathen while they smile in our face and stab us in the back. How are they stabbing us in the back? Again, when they insist that Africa is the motherland and the first civilization, they're going to have to bring Europe and make them secondary or third. And they're going to make Asia probably first. And that's why I think they tend to want America to be Asian as well, because I think to maybe put America as second place to Africa. But the opposite is true when American Indians are not African. And what is the opposite? The opposite is we are the older civilization. And then it looks like what would have been the last? I think the order would have been the same. It would have been America was the first civilization, like it really is, then Africa gets after we had also no, it would be different. It would be different. If America is the first civilization, Africa would probably be the second, and Asia would be the third. Um, so that's why the Moors they don't want to admit because they already claimed Africa. So if they claim Africa and allow America to be first, that's going to make them second. The Moors want to be the first birthright of the land of the world. So that's why they have to make us them because it will bring them in to our birthright. But without them, our birthright is America, and that is the first civilization. That's why American Indians are hated. They're similar or something like a brother, but they insist on having the inheritance of your birthright when you're the firstborn. So it's like a second-born brother who will murder you, similar to how Cain did, so he can take your birthright. So when he murders you, it's going to be a political murder. It's a spiritual murder of your ancestors. It's a political murder with your standing as the lowest thing in their caste system. And then it becomes your physical murder. Yes. Say thank you for watching. I was always hoping to make a shorter video, and I just seem like it's just not in my blood. I wanted to make this much shorter, but I thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to leave it on that because ChatGPT, it's on that because I think it starts to say something where it starts to sound like, yeah, definitely, they would definitely probably, that's what ChatGPT, that's what the whole algorithm of the world is to make those as if they were in America, they were just one of many other types of people. And jot that down because Asians were here because Asia is considered the old world. His biggest nightmare is to have America be, oh my gosh. It's just their biggest nightmare is to admit that everything in their so-called hemisphere is younger, including the Moors themselves. Um, so they have a lot that they're hiding, ladies and gentlemen. And Uh, it's for them to tell, although I've said it before, I don't feel like telling, about, thing that happened that surrounded Akhenaten. First, we say this all the time, ladies and gentlemen, the first 18 dynasties were in the Americas, but killing occurred. And so part of the 18th dynasty ended up in Africa. The pharaoh we know of is what I only pharaoh, think about it, ladies and gentlemen, the only pharaoh we all know of is the one that was called heretic by our people, American Indians. We called Akhenaten a heretic, but the monotheists, like the Moors, they would have loved what Akhenaten was doing. In fact, I believe they would trace back to Akhenaten. I believe that their priesthood, the Amen priesthood, is the monotheistic priest of today, of all the monotheistic religions. So that's why we know like we said it before, ladies and gentlemen. When you think about it, you might want to say to yourself, why do I only know the face of one pharaoh as well as his wife's face and his son's face? Think of that gold mask when we think of King Tut. So there's his face, or a version of his face. We know what Nefertiti looks like because they try to say she's the most beautiful woman. And we know what Akhenaten looks like. And they will admit that he was basically a Moor. I'm gonna have to call him a Moor because once he goes to Africa, he's pushing a genocide of the ancestors with his religion. Akhenaten came from polytheism, and he's called the father of monotheism. But his origins were polytheistic. This is what the Moor is trying to not have us connect the dots on. What it would mean is that polytheism is the firstborn religion. The firstborn form of religion is polytheism. Second born is monotheism. So the Moor is conflicted because as bad as he wants to be firstborn, he keeps choosing second-born shenanigans. That's why I believe the Moor has become psychotic, spiritually psychotic, mentally cognitive dissonance, because you can't line up those ducks. It don't make sense. The father of monotheism is Akhenaten. That's the Moor's guy, y'all. That's why we know of Amen, because it was the Amen priesthood. They weren't the only priesthood. The Amen, that was again, we know Amen is a conglomerate deity, so he's not an original deity. See, this is what I mean. The Moors, they make up new deities and then they're mad because they're not firstborn. You got to go with the firstborn deities, boo. And y'all are incapable of doing that because you'll have to admit that polytheism was your original religion. You have to admit that. But you got a lot of people now that you indoctrinated and they're going to be pissed off when they find out that your nigga ass lied to them. Not American Indians. Hell, you called us heathen, so we didn't lie to them. We were telling the truth. And what is that truth, Heru? That truth is that the most ancient people were practicing polytheism. And the new people who want to be firstborn but want a new fandango religion, it's not consistent. You're conflicted. Ladies and gentlemen, we gonna try to close this video. I still gotta get up for work. And I got a few more hours, a little over a few more hours left. Thank you for watching. We are actually peaceful. It's just that we have a very big mouth. we have we have a what I like to I think my mouth is a result. It is when you go with astrology, it's Mercury that is the communicator. And like I said, my Mercury is Leo. Whereas the Moor is always trying to be a king and all of this, want to be the Sultan and all of that. There's some mouths that were born to be king. You're a king, not a wannabe, you know? So, yeah, it's just a gift of the ancestors at the end of the day. That when they favor us with you know uh a voice that can speak with a sense of authority, but it's also from the heart. See, that's the thing with Leo energy. Uh yeah, I'm thinking of going into a whole Leo thing, but I just find that although I might not, how do I say it? Well, my sun sign is not Leo, as we said, right? Uh, so I want to say that sometimes I've felt that Leos can be a little bit too, for me, and this is just my opinion, you know, there's things that I appreciate. But I think the things that I find a little more challenging is I'm not necessarily comfortable with uh the cater to me type of thing. Like, and I just feel that that's I'm not too much in, so I feel like I might bump a little bit with uh some Leos, because it's just this someone who if you ever have someone who just in their presence you feel like you all of a sudden became a servant or something. It's like, and Leos, they can't help it, they can't help it. So I find that I'd rather not entertain. I told y'all, I said it, what, ladies and gentlemen, let's be real. I said it in the last video. I can't be a slave. I can't be a slave. And I'm very sensitive to it. So even if I fell into it under a spell of, just falling into it, I will soon be out of it because it's not in my makeup to I don't like that feeling. And I'll say this: it's partly what fuels this drive with the topic of American Indians. I don't like the idea of being enslaved. Then I completely despise the idea of an insidious slavery, a slavery where you don't even know that you've been made a slave. Now, I find that absolutely abhorrent. And the lowlives that would have to reduce themselves to that, I cannot say I have respect for that. Like, I can't, I find it despicable. You are so pitiful that you are willing to deceive a person into being your subject? That's how desperate you are? I mean, if you're that way, be out with it. Tell the people, some might agree. There's some people who are very much into like sadomasochism, and they will, oh, you want to be the master? Okay. So, but, but I think what's happening is some people get off on sneaking their domination on you. And I just find that is so pitiful when you really think about it. Because when that shit blows up in your face, hopefully you have a face left. Right, Moors? We are peaceful American Indians. We're just talking in terms of karma and the retribution for the deception. When you set out to deceive, what you're opening yourself up to is being deceived. Sacrifice, you're opening up yourself to be sacrificed. Deal with. All I gotta do is really turn from all of that, like just say, I don't want to be a deceiver no more. I don't want to be a liar no more. I'm gonna tell the truth. It's really that simple. I mean, you know, they trying to fool the gods as well as man, and it's just not gonna work, y'all. It's just not gonna work. It's sad because I don't think people have to be permanently held in any kind of, call it, like even payback. Like when payback time comes, I don't think it has to be lethal. So it's hard for me to understand why it is so hard for Moors to give up that religion. Maybe when they dedicate themselves to a deity, they're gonna they that's what I thought of that before, and y'all heard me say that before. Maybe when they dedicate themselves and oath themselves to a deity, maybe that's when it becomes a done deal. Maybe that's what it is. Because I don't understand why any man or woman can't get out of a mistake or get out of, something that they no longer find serving. Like I mean, I know that we have, it's in the makeup for the so-called human being to develop addictions of sorts, Uh, so, but in this one, it's an ideology. I don't know if an ideology is an addiction, but addictions can be reeled in or brought under, control, So I don't know what keeps Moors locked into monotheism unless they made some kind of oath to the deity that they're worshiping, and maybe they don't know that there's another way because they've been taught by the priest, you know. Yeah, so just blabbering, what do you call it? when you babbling on. It's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe that's why I'm all talkative. I don't know. Just want to say that I think of Leo energy is what I was talking about, and the sort of irony is that personalities, uh, like famous personalities, like for instance Jennifer Lopez, um, and although she has been implicated, you know, shenanigans. And, you know, I feel like I watch her a little bit. And I think the Leo energy uh in me resonates with, her struggle being like I can see uh where it wasn't it wasn't great, her connection with Diddy. It's doesn't reflect well on her, you know. But then it's some what I guess what I'm trying to say is that yes, there's some things about that energy that I think I avoid because again, I have, you know, I don't know. That subservient thing, it's just not for me. That's all. It's not good or it's not bad. It's just that I find that I like the subservient part of it, you know. Much boss energy. It gives you subservient vibes, you know. Um, but I do find that when I hear her speak, she's just to me, she's just an example of this ebb and flow thing with the Leo energy, and knowing that some of that is in me as well, and so it's like maybe it's parts of myself, that I uh more okay with, than again, I'm not, my sun sign is not Leo, but I'm very aware of the Mercury. It's just a placement that you can't miss because of the Leo energy. You can't. So, you know, it where it is, it's going to be profound. So, Mercury is in communication for me. The Mercury energy is in communication, how I communicate. And I can sense that it's something that is a little extra, than the regular me. And so I have a Venus in that placement. So um, the thing I find, and I think J-Lo is an example of it, is that when I hear her speak and when she explains what how it occurs to her. I find that because sometimes the issue with Leo energy is that, oh, it's dramatic. Oh, it's not that sincere. It's just so self-centered and blah, blah, blah. And some of it is true, like, that bossiness and that sort of making servants out of everybody in the room, that kind of thing. Not all Leos do it. That's the thing, too. Not all Leos are like that. So my father was a Leo. Although I was very young when he was around, so I don't know if I saw his shenanigans. I don't think, uh, but I do feel he provided. That's for damn sure. I do think he provided for us. That I felt, that I saw. Uh, Maybe not too much of him, like his, uh, not him direct, which is not the universal cry, the daddy issue, whatever. He was there, but he wasn't there. It's everybody's crying, no matter what your father's a Leo or not. But and he he provided for us. And can't argue with that. Cannot argue with that. It's just that amidst all the you know but again, when you hear her talk about how she experienced it, I find that I believe her. I believe her. I feel what she's saying, like a lot on her legacy with Diddy. It's like she's you can tell she's not going to allow that to take her down. It's very I find that that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I think although it will come off as arrogant and slimy or whatever, trials and whatever. It's I just I sense the sincerity, I really do. It's endearing. It's endearing. Um, so anyway, I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent. I think if I didn't have that placement, let's just say I wouldn't be able to do videos like, I don't think I'd be able to, you know, do, and feel confident about them if I didn't have that placement in my chart. And so I guess it's just my way of honoring that thing that allows me to do to me. It feels good to me. And it like J-Lo, when there's something uh that as part of your life that it could be a blot on your personality or your the way you're perceived. And then this thing comes and I guess it's just a way of being grateful to the ancestors. Extremely grateful because platform and brand, it's that I feel as if the ancestors knew that I needed this thing, I guess, but I truly needed to channel, have it like this. And no matter how small it is, for me, it is just it's like I get the benefit. I'm getting a big benefit. Life validation. And again, I thank the but I also thank you for that, for being part of this. So thank you again for your time. It's like you start a video, then you see, I guess it's just you get so into this mode that it just goes ranting on and on and on and on and on. Friday morning, and it's about actually for to, get a little siesta in before I have to get ready to wishing all of my listeners and viewers a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. Um, this weekend, uh, no biggie. I love it when I can have nothing to do on the weekend, and so it's just open. So, but this weekend I do think I'm going to meet up with a friend of mine that I was not able to meet up with last weekend when we made the video last weekend. Phew. Excuse me. The one where we were talking about, we talking about? Oh, why the Moors hate us. Why the Moors hate American Indians. So I was supposed to meet two friends that day, and like meeting one because the weather was horrible. I was cold. It was rainy. So the third friend, it came time to meet up with him. I was just too cold and it was too rainy. So now I'll just weekend will make up for last weekend. So anyway, that's uh yeah. So end up I guess it's supposed to be yeah. So I really prefer when the weekend is more open, at least one day of nothingness, you know. But this weekend it might be 2 days of what do you call it? Friend meetings. All righty. So I am just babbling again. Don't know why I'm in the babble mode. But I'm going to stop the share. Again, we were looking at 12, 12 researcher. It was a comparative summary of researchers citing Negro presence in ancient America. So thank you for joining us for this video. Pardon the long ass uh, ranting, and thank you again so much for watching your time and thank you for your kind comments as always. Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm not sure what will be the next video, but I think there was more stuff I had on this topic, and it just had to do with it was basically talking about the location talking about, but one of them said it was one of the researchers, I think it was was it no, it wasn't Palacio. I'll put it in the comment section, but one of the researchers basically said it was just the whole Western Hemisphere. Whereas some are speaking of specific places. One of the researchers said basically the whole Western Hemisphere is was Negro. The whole Western Hemisphere. Again, someone knew about this hemisphere, y'all, and it wasn't Caucasian and it wasn't Asian. You know who it was, and you know they are working a psyop, which is basically a lie to make Africa something that it's not. There's nothing wrong with Africa. It's just that you can't lie to a whole dual continent of people and just tell them that they didn't exist on their land. That's a very, very bold move. You will have to pay for that more. Uh, Genociding us like that will never be a cool thing. It never will be. Again, you're opening yourself up to all of that. When karma comes a knocking, we American Indians have been paying. You hear me? We as American Indians pay every day for this lie, every day of our lives. And you more what prance around here bragging about some pastime of glory, making us want your glory when we have our own. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when you find out when it hits you, what the hell is going on here? You just won't, you'll be like me, you just won't be able to shut up to the side and just leave it there because it shocks you each and every time because it so appears to be something else in the world that it is not. Um, Someone knew we were here, ladies and gentlemen, and they denied our existence, and we pay for at least 500 fucking years are having to try to use AI. We are scraping and scrimping, trying to pick up the pieces of our broken legacy. While these Negroes are just all day, every day talking about theirs. They're not doing that, ladies and gentlemen, except to get you to desire their legacy when you have your own. And when you move to someone else's country, it behooves you to respect them and their traditions, not bowl them over with yours. The Moor cannot escape that he is a North African Berber first, but he will tap dance in front of your face, get you to get on board, and then whip it out on you after you all on board because he done convinced you he's a Indian. Then when he sees you totally bought into his gibberish, he gonna say it to you once again. And it'll be too late because you have cosign. Then he's gonna say, well, I'm not exactly American. Back when the American Indian's jaw will drop. You just led you to the water, saying that, yeah, we both the same. We both black. We both look like this. We the same people. We the same fools. Uh, After he led you to how much you're the same, when he got you, he gonna say, and we both came from. That's when the movie ends and the horrific music is playing and the credits are rolling and the American Indian, this is your life. He fooled you. All this time, we the same. And then you went to a meeting of all red hats. That's when you realize, oh gosh. And then one red hat on the table. And the nigga standing that fits me. You best to put it on. Like you're led. And then he always boomerangs back to Africa. You get on his little bandwagon thinking that it's all about America and find your nigger asses in Africa. Bowing down to the Sultan and all of that. Walk around the black cubes and all that stuff. Killing baby goats and stuff. I mean, look, we don't discriminate, ladies and gentlemen. People are allowed to worship whoever they want to. But when they lead you to that under some false pretense of some sort of saying that y'all one and the same when he know damn well his religion is the farthest thing from yours originally and he knows your origin and the mission is to get you to be cut off from that origin because it's a new world order. What's the new world order, ladies and gentlemen? Basically, it has something to do with monotheism. Part of the old world was polytheism. Part of the original civilizations was polytheism. Order is the ritualistic murder of those deities and the order of sacrifice and the bait and switch and the doppelganger, uh, the grafted, what they call grafted people. That's the new world. The new world is all of that. American Indians, it'll never work for American Indians because it world order is based upon the genocide of the old world, and American Indians are an old people. So the new world order is basically we're going to cut off the roots of the American Indian, watch him bleed to death, and then give the blood to our gods or drink some of it and put him on the fire. And that's the sac. There we have a sacrifice. And now we can take his place. That's what it is. It is what it is, but we don't have to be part of it, ladies and gentlemen. And I know I am, I don't know what was in that chicken I eat that I'm ranting like this. Bok, 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 bok. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Happy Friday. Till next time. Be and stay American.